Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. It is our very last video in August today. August really did slip away like a moment in time. Where did she go? But I am back today to read more of your own scary stories that you sent to me, so let's get into it. As always, if you have any stories you'd like for me to read, all of that information along with my other socials and my Patreon is below. Just whenever you send that story to that email, please put YouTube in the subject line so I know where to read it, and let's get into it. Let's get into these spooky stories. I am excited. Are you guys cozy? Do you have a fuzzy blanket, and have you turned off all of your lights, or maybe turned them on? Good. Okay. Just making sure before I start. I hope you're well. I just wanted to share my Ouija board experience here. This happened a couple of years ago when I was 16. One of my cousins was visiting us for a portion of the summer, and being young and naive, she, my sibling, and I decided we wanted to try using a Ouija board. Now, we didn't own a real board, but my cousin had a friend that came from a family of mediums and spiritual people, and he was able to tell us how to set up our own makeshift board and how to use it safely. From a piece of paper, we cut out all 26 letters of the alphabet, numbers 0 through 9, and yes, no, and goodbye. We arranged them in an arch on the floor and used a glass as a makeshift planchette. My siblings and I grabbed a load of crystals and religious objects that we believed might protect us and surrounded the board with them. To be honest, it was a pathetic-looking board, and even I, an avid believer of paranormal, was skeptical that we'd have any luck with this. Nonetheless, we began by placing our hands one by one on the glass and asking if there were any spirits present. For a moment, nothing, but then the glass slowly made its way over to the cut-out letters to spell H-E-L-L-O. We all got excited and began asking some more questions, nothing too crazy. We would just ask their ages, where the spirits had lived, and things like that. We gathered that the spirit belonged to a young girl, around the age of 6, who had lived in Scotland some 100 plus years prior, so we assumed the spirit wasn't malicious in any way. That is something you should never assume, but I digress. My sibling commented on how it felt as though me and my cousin were pressing down on their hand really hard and causing the glass to move that way, but we assured them that while both of our hands were touching theirs, we weren't pressing down in the slightest. It was such a weird sensation. Now, coming into this, I already had a bit of knowledge on what to do, and more importantly, what not to do when using a board. So when my cousin then decided to ask the spirit how she passed, I felt my stomach drop. The glass paused and then moved to spell out the letters T-U-M-O-R. We fell silent, remembering that a great-great-grandparent of ours on the Scottish side of the family had a young sister, and that sister had passed at the age of 6 from an unidentified illness that affected her brain. The conclusion we jumped to was that we were communicating with the spirit of our deceased great-great-aunt whose cause of death had been a brain tumor, and that really rattled us. We said goodbye to the spirit and thanked her for joining us before taking everything out into the garden. Then we did something really stupid. We took all of the pieces of paper and set them alight. We thought in doing so the portal to the spirit realm would be definitely shut, and now I know that almost certainly caused the opposite to happen. In the days after, we moved on, and eventually our cousin went home, and we got on with that year. I think that now is a good time to mention that while I was suggesting questions to ask the spirit while using the Ouija board, it was never me that actually asked them, which is what makes me think that this next bit is much creepier. In the year following the use of that board, both my cousin and my sibling had near-death experiences. My cousin broke a rib in a skiing accident that punctured one of her internal organs. My sister had a near-fatal overdose that caused them to be hospitalized. We were sure both incidents had something to do with them asking questions to that spirit and not saying goodbye properly, leading to the spirit attaching itself to both of them until they had potentially received their karma, or whatever you see it as. It makes me wonder, even to this day, the intentions of that spirit, and if she would have done worse had we not stopped when we did. Thank you for providing a space where I can share this, and if this convinces at least one person to never touch a Ouija board, that would make me so happy. I say this every time we get a Ouija board story. Don't believe shit that these spirits say to you, because it's often a trick. More often than not, they are tricking you. Using a board at all is so risky, and I never tell people not to do it because it's like teaching abstinence. It doesn't work. I'd rather teach you ways to safely use it, but they're tricky, and I know it's like, Pete, what you got, baby? It's your treasure, it's not my business. My cat has something and it's being loud. But I forgot what I was saying. But anyways, I have videos on here. I'll actually link them below that talk about the safety of Ouija board usage, so if you ever decide to, please do it safely. But if you can go your whole life without doing it, I recommend it personally. All right, let's get on with story number 2. Sorry to go all mom on you there. She found my earring that I lost. You took it, didn't you? You are a rat that hides things. I don't even know where to safely put this. She's gonna take it again, 100%. Alright, story number 2. For this story, I was with friends who we will call friend 1, friend 2, and cousin, my friend's cousin. We were having a sleepover at friend 1's house, and cousin brought a Ouija board for us to play. Another? What are the frickin' odds? Because I just like go in order and get these stories for YouTube. What are the odds? What are the odds that back-to-back Ouija board ones happened, huh? Is this a sign? Should I play one? I'm just kidding. Never again. We were stupid and didn't set up any protection because we didn't really believe in Ouija boards, even though friend 1's property is haunted. After a bit of playing, the board spelled out friend 1's dead name, which is something we've never said out loud. Friend 1 started complaining of a stomach ache, but we thought nothing of it. Immediately after, friend 1 went out and threw up. Soon after this, the board would point to number 5, which is my jersey number in every sport. I got a pit in my stomach and had to go throw up as well. Friend 2 and cousin both had private information about them spelled out on the board and just waited till they got sick. They did end up getting sick. Side note, it was not food poisoning because we ate the same things as everyone in the house and no one else complained of an upset stomach. After that, we did a cleanse and the sick feeling went away. We were tummy ache survivors. We have no clue what we talked to that night, but it was very powerful. Okay, story number 3. This one is titled The One Under the Stairs. Slowly turns to look at my stairs behind me. I'm currently 16, but this happened when I was 3 or 4. My father always had health issues, so at the time we lived at my grandparents' house. This house was an old house built in the 1900s. It had been in our family for generations, but it is not currently. The house had an attic and a basement. The basement was turned into an apartment, and that is where we lived. My grandparents were living upstairs, and my cousin, aunt, and uncle were living in the attic's 2 rooms. The basement had 2 rooms closed off. Picture a staircase leading down to a basement with no back to the stairs. Picture wood planks as stairs, with a storage area under. At the bottom of the stairs was an open room with no front wall or door. This was my room. To the left was my sister's room, and to the right was my parents'. Down the hallway was my brother's, and then the kitchen and bathroom. Me being the youngest, I didn't get a closed-off room. I got the open one, right in front of the stairs. I had and have always had an uneasy feeling when in or on that property of that house. No matter if it was the day or night, going up and down those stairs was scary. My parents felt it too, like it was something pressing on your chest, making it hard to breathe. It felt like something was chasing you up. I always felt like something was watching me from those stairs, and when I was 4, I started seeing it. There were 3 shadow figures in my room. One would stand in the middle of the room, the second would hang upside down above my bed, and the third, you guessed it, under the stairs. After I began seeing them, I would make my mom stay in my room till I fell asleep. But I'm an insomniac, and I would take hours for me to fall asleep, and she would stay with me for about an hour before she would say she has to go to sleep because she has work. I hated when she went to her room. They would always be there. The one in the middle of my room was scary, but the one under the stairs chilled me to my core. It was definitely evil. The one above my bed seemed nice. It would watch me while I slept, but it didn't bother me. I ended up calling that one Zip Zip, and I believe Zip Zip was a girl. She started coming out and would play with me during the day as well now. Well, one night the one under the stairs began moving towards my bed, towards me. I laid there with my eyes wide as I watched it move closer. I was so scared. I went to scream for my mom, but nothing came out. Then Zip Zip hopped down from the ceiling and stood at the end of my bed. The one under the stairs stopped moving. After a minute, he went back under the bed stairs that Zip Zip stayed at the end of my bed watching from the stair. After a minute, he went back. The woods out back of my house always gave everyone an uneasy feeling. I wouldn't go back out there by myself, and one day my brother went out by himself and he said that he was going to make a fort. He said everything went quiet and he felt like he was being watched from the trees to his left. He looked up and he said he saw something that he called a troll, and it was in the tree. It jumped down from the tree and rolled on the ground and then ran up a different tree and then jumped through the trees deeper into the forest. I don't know what that could have been. He's now 19 and plays it off as his imagination. Said he had an active imagination as a kid, but I don't think it was. I saw things in the trees too. I don't know what it could have been, but if you have any ideas, please let me know. This all took place in Maine. Could it have been a fairy? Or like a gnome? Or something like that maybe? I'm not sure. Okay, the final story we're going to read is titled Advice Please. So let's put on our thinking caps and give some advice. My fiance and I have both experienced paranormal experiences from a young age. Over the past year and a half, things have picked up to an extreme measure. We believe we have a mimic or multiple spirits that mimic. Last summer, we started noticing that we would hear each other call out, but it wasn't ever us. We would either be in the same room or one at work. During last summer, we had an experience that neither of us could really come to terms with. We were door dashing in a city around 40 minutes away from where we live. There had been several times that we would get sketched out or spooked by things, but on our way one night, we got something very heavy surrounding us. We did not say anything to each other until we were inside our house. When the topic was discussed, we were both saying the same things. Something very large and black had enveloped our car and was laying across the roof. We both watched as it creeps and crawls upwards towards the windshield. Needless to say, when we parked, we hesitated getting out of the car. After that, it seemed as things just kept happening. Now, at the end of August 2024, between my fiance, myself, and my parents, we've all experienced someone calling our names or saying something to us in one of our voices. Whatever it is tries very hard to get us to go somewhere isolated, whether it's inside or outside the home. Within the last 2 weeks, my fiance and I heard screams, whispers, and something saying, "Hey, come over here, babe," or our names. And there's no one around us when it happens. We also live in a holler of 40 acres, so we do not have close neighbors. We see trees with faces quite often and fey traps scattered through the property. There are times that it feels like we live in a paranormal portal or something. It sounds to me that's exactly what's happening. You live in sort of a paranormal hotspot or an open portal, if you will, where several things are coming through at once. So my advice would be to cleanse yourself, cleanse your property, keep all protections up and updated, and just try to ignore everything that you can. So if you experience something and you want to talk about it, do it outside of the property and make sure nothing's happening, at that time. Because I know you said when you were door dashing away from the property, something happened. So make sure you're in the clear before you bring it up. I would never talk about it, write nothing. I wouldn't do anything about that paranormal activity on that property anymore. And hopefully it'll die down once you ignore it. But it's literally, I could name like 7 different things that probably is. And they could all be true and coexist at once. So, protections. Anyway, that is all for today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I will see you again next week.